Welcome to White Coat Black Sheep, where science gets curious and dogma gets uncomfortable. I'm Dr. Civelli, and today we're talking physiology, evidence, and real-world medicine, plus the questions you're not supposed to ask but probably should. If you care about health and think there's a better way, welcome to our show. Thank you so much, Dr. Nichols, Susan Nichols. Thank you so much for joining me today. Do you mind telling us who you are and what you do? And I know that's a big question because you do so much.
Yeah, likewise. Well, thank you so much, Valerie. It is such a pleasure to be here with you today. So as you know, I was much like you. I started my career in medicine. I trained as a surgeon and then a cardiothoracic surgeon. And then I had a very profound spiritual awakening. And it kind of leads me to what I do today as a private wealth manager. But yeah, it's been quite a journey to figuring out that this was what I'm meant to do in life. But I did start out, in medicine. Even before that, as a chemist, I worked for a pharmaceutical company. But yeah, I did the entire rigmarole, to becoming a doctor before I realized that I had to make a significant change in my life.
Wow. Is there any point that you were willing and open to sharing the spiritual awakening? I didn't want to over ask, but I am interested if you're comfortable sharing.
I
'Cause
am.
that's a huge change. So I know it must have been profound, and people, if in any way it could help somebody identify what is your signal to pivot. You did a major pivot, so that was your signal. So what would be helpful, I guess, would be the tie-in for that?
Okay. So what I have come to understand is that there are two paths that we can go down in life. One I believe is our chosen path, and one I think is our rightful path.
Ooh.
And when I say a chosen path, I mean often that is driven by society, like what we should be doing or what we think is going to earn us money or what makes us feel good about ourselves or honor about ourselves, maybe following in family footsteps and so on and so forth. And then the other part I believe is spiritual in nature. Um, that we just like we are more than a physical person, that we're energetic in nature. I believe some people call it the spirit or the soul or the life force, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
I think there's a duality of us as a human being, and I believe there's also a duality in our purpose or our paths in life. So I did like most people. I went down kind of what I would say was my chosen path. And I believed it for a very long time that it was my purpose. Like I felt so strongly about being a doctor. I declared it when I was 10 years old. And so it was. I literally did everything that I needed to do to be successful in that. So I did it. I went to medical school, I went to residency and I went to fellowship only to have what I call a dark night of the soul. And what that was, I could really follow a thread all the way back to my childhood on what triggered the dark night of the soul or the spiritual awakening during my fellowship. And it was really, Valerie, like this deep, visceral sadness that I carried. And I'll put it this way, I'd carried it for so long that I didn't know what it was to be without it. No matter what the kind of achievement was or the excitement or the thrill, I would always kind of come back to this very basal, like this very low energy feeling of sadness. And I believed that it was linked to my circumstances, like the circumstances that I was born into, that I had grown up with. I never felt really happy as a child. I felt like, yeah, there are moments, but I I would say I would never want to repeat my childhood. It was challenging in many, many ways. And so I believe that, once I grew up and once I kind of did what was my purpose and I got a job and I made money and I had titles and degrees, then all of that would kind of somehow dissolve and I would be free. Like I would be spiritually free. I would be happy. I would feel actualized. I kept remembering like this Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get to the top of this thing, and then it will feel like it was all worth it.
Yeah.
Well, when I got to what I thought was that zenith, like that high point of being a clinical fellow in cardiac surgery, I was like, all I need to do is just like stay with this, then I will be off to the races. Like, no problems. I will be completely free, actualized, and happy, only to feel like if I didn't change something at that time, then I didn't want to go on living. That's how deep the sorrow in my spirit was.
Oh my goodness, I resonate with that.
I think a lot of people do. I think the lion's share of humanity is on the treadmill of life, working to pay bills. And what I like, so my spiritual awakening, it had like a lot of legs to it, like a lot of, I would say, like roots to it. And I would literally drive down the road to my job, and I would look at people in their cars, and I had this like aha moment. I was like, nobody seems like they're happy. Not really.
No one's
Yeah.
happy. They're
And
not.
I was like, "Wait a second." I was like, "What are we
No
doing?"
one is happy. And I see it. Okay, so now what?
Yeah, and that was it. Like, and neither was I. Like, I could put on the like this I it like, it's like all the accoutrements. Like, it's like, okay, I had at one point, I had, the kid, I had the family, I had the Mercedes Benz in the garage, I had the remodeled kitchen, I had the clothes,
Job.
the house, the vacations. And still, there it was, like, the sadness. And I was like, "What?" I don't know what this is, but I literally got to the point, Valerie, where I was like, "I have done everything, like, everything humanly that I could possibly think of to do to become free of this sadness," and I couldn't. Like, I believe that there was nothing else I could do. I had tried everything. And, that's
Like
when I think things got
vacation
kinda scary.
and
Yeah.
church. Like, the things that you did try, were there any windows where you felt a lift or some sort of freedom that gave you a moment of peace, or it went away for a little bit? Was there anything?
Again, I believe that there were some high points. There were times of joy. There were times of, like, excitement. There was a lot I remember at times looking forward to it, like, I was so excited medical school, and I was so excited, you know,
Yeah.
like, I think I got like, the shine kinda wore off by the end of medical school. I was like, "Man, this is hard."
The shine does wear off. It
And I
totally
was
is like, "Oh my god, what have I
and I
done?"
was and so I was like, "Oh, no," and I know like, I noticed that just the medical school part, not even the residency, like the hardest part, like, started changing people. It's like
Yep.
almost like the light started going out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're like, "Ah," excited, happy, and then it's like you got drained and drained and drained and drained.
Yeah.
And, I I remember I remember this. I was doing my CT fellowship, and it was not common or often, but sometimes we'd have students or other residents that would rotate on our service. It was very infrequent. Only if someone really wanted to go into CT surgery or something like that. And I remember this young girl came on, and she's like, "Oh, well, I think I want to do heart surgery." And she's all bubbly and whatever. And I looked at her and I was like, "I remember being like you." She was, like, happy, and, like I said, she has still had the light, but then she's still a medical student. I was like, "Oh, it's gonna go." She's gonna get the beat down.
You're like, "Well, it's just a matter of time. We're just gonna give her a few more minutes, put her back into the hospital oven, the whole process of it, just let it cook, and then she'll be like, 'Oh
Yeah.
my god, why do I feel so heavy?'" It's freaking heavy.
It is. It is.
Oh, and cardiothoracic surgery is no joke. Like, 7 years? I
Oh,
don't know the
yeah. I was on the 10-year track. So, actually, one of the when because literally it was like So I did my CT surgery fellowship at Stanford, and part of the journey was like doing research. And so some people were in research for 2-3 years,
I did
you
2
know,
3 years of
and I did a
research.
2-year research fellowship.
Yeah.
But my most senior fellow came out of fellowship at age 40. I mean, I'm just saying, like, talk about delayed gratification and like being in training for 11 years, you know, it's
Decades. Yeah,
like
we
one of the
talking
longest
decades.
training tracks. And so there is a lot about it, you know, there's no doubt about that. But yeah, it's like we're, you know, full on grown up people coming out of training, you know,
Sort of.
sort of.
I don't feel grown up. I mean, I even have pigtails today. I literally do not identify as grown up. I'm still
Right.
figuring it out.
Exactly. Exactly. But I think what happens is when we do like very protracted training programs in medicine, we feel like we're really behind.
I
And you know, this is going to tie in, I believe, to what I'm doing now. We believe we're really behind financially because there have been all those years where, you know, let's say from the early 20s to 40s that your peers have been working and climbing the corporate ladder and earning more and more and having kids and families and cars and houses. And for so long, you can't afford it. Like you're just kind of like almost in this protracted adolescence. Like, but you're performing at a very, very high level. You know what I mean? Like you're executing at a super high level, but you're like poor and broke, you know, and got like student loans up to your eyebrows, and you just can't literally figure out a way out of the debt.
Yeah.
And so that's how it was. And I really feel like it almost, this is going to sound so strange, but I feel like I almost like I had to do that entire journey, that whole journey into being a heart surgeon because of some childhood, and I would say even generational wounds that I was trying to overcompensate for. And a lot of it was, you know, I was born into poverty and I was born into a pretty desperate circumstance. And I always believed that that was like the root of like what ailed my soul and the sadness. I couldn't really put my finger on the sorrow. I just knew that it was there, but that was the only memory or thing that was like tangible that I could say, "Oh yeah, that situation sucked, blah 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 blah." But what I really think is this was a pattern that was occurring in my family for generations. So I believe, carrying a generational wound around security, around finances, around work, around, you know, women, like as far as like being a woman and earning money, there was a lot of wounds in there. And I believe I was on this journey to really kind of accentuate what that was so I could finally bring awareness to it to change it. Like, I believe that until we we can recognize a pattern, but
Mhm.
until we bring awareness to it, like something's not right or like whatever this is, this feeling doesn't match. It's like it didn't match my resume. You know, it didn't match my outside life. Like I had no reason to feel this way, like on paper,
Yeah. Yeah.
but my spirit was saying something else. And I think that happens with a lot of people that you see that reach the heights of their worldly success. It could be in athletics, it can be in whatever education, it could be in Hollywood or, you know, whatever their art or craft is. And then they're like whacked out on drugs or they're very depressive and sad, or even suicidal. And you're like, well, you like literally you're scratching your head. You're like, you've got all these things. So on paper, it looks good. Like you're like, well, what do you have to complain about, or what are you upset about? But I believe that that's when we have to look back at what I think is generational trauma. Yeah.
That connection that you made, I don't know at what point you recognized it, but that's pivotal. I never would have thought of it like that. I do resonate with all of the things that you describe and that you're feeling. And my family on my dad's side, they're from Malta. So my dad's first generation here, and my grandfather, so his dad was illiterate, came over as a stowaway on a boat, and then later got his green card because, my dad went into the CIA, and they discovered, and including my dad, that he didn't have that. So, he had to learn to read and write, and, there's so much there, and I feel the need to compensate or to, like, overachieve, and it's not, like, in my conscious daily awareness, but I never feel accomplished, like, that feeling. I
Mm,
feel emotional
mm.
about it, just, like, the way that you connected it, because it is a real thing, and I don't know what it is or, like, why it's there or what to do with it. You know?
Well, let me break this down a little bit.
Mm.
Okay. So I feel this, and I tell you, I was hitting my head against the wall for most of my life because I couldn't get it either. It's like a nut I could not crack. Because like I said, it didn't make sense. It didn't make logical sense, but I
No.
was experiencing it nonetheless. And so it's almost like, Valerie, the feeling of love, right? Where it might not make sense, but you just feel that way. And uh,
Yeah.
you're like, man, like this is so inconvenient, or I don't know, you can't, but you just do.
Yeah.
And so now, like, just apply that to the other end of the spectrum of sadness or sorrow. Like you just do. You just have this feeling about you, or this way about you. And so I believe that this is what it is. So at the very core of us as human beings, we are energy. And I believe the energy of us, like again, some people call it the soul or the spirit or the life force or chi, whatever you want to call it. At the core of it's energy. It's a feeling. It's a vibration. And as human beings, we have the capacity to hold or to feel every feeling imaginable or vibrational state available. Like literally,
Mhm.
eh, eh, we have the capacity to feel love, just like we can feel hate. We can be enlightened and we can be sorrowful. Like we
Mhm.
have, and everything in between. We have the capacity to feel, and I think that's a part of our experience in life. It's maybe the wonderful part of it, because I also believe like it's about contrast. Like we do not know what it is to love until we know what it is to not be loved. And vice versa. To be
Yeah.
hot if we don't know what it is to be cold, and so on and so forth. Dark or the light. It's just a contrast. And so I do think life is just about contrast. And I believe that's maybe part of the reason we have the capacity to feel all of it. But I think what we don't recognize is that sometimes there can be like a dominant frequency, or like a set, we're like almost like our set point of frequency that we come into this life with. And I believe many people have different beliefs or non-beliefs about past lives and past existence, but many of us can at least adopt the generational stuff, like stuff that we can
Yes.
maybe like put our head around. So let's just say it's generational. Let's not go back to your other lives. And so you say, okay, and if I look at the generational energies, the patterns, the stories that I come from, you could understand maybe some of your issues. You could say, oh yeah, see, people will say it's like, yeah, we have people in our family that have always had a talent or been very good singers or very good this or very good that, or people that have had eh, suicide that runs in our family, or there are people, a lot of murderers in our family, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
You're like,
Yeah.
man, really? And it's
Yeah.
like generations of this stuff. And so you can see like there's tendencies that come through, right? Like come through generationally. And so I believe just like we can inherit, if you can grab onto this, like if I can inherit a trait from a past generation, could I not also inherit like an essence, an ability, a sound of my voice, a way of being, a manner of being, a
Yeah.
talent, something that's intangible? Could I not also bring trauma with me? If I can get to that, like, oh, we have generations of singers in our family, and that's a talent.
Mhm.
Could I also bring generational trauma, okay, along with me. And I believe we all do. I say nobody comes to Earth for free. Nobody.
I
So
love
everybody's
that.
born, yeah, we're born into like a little baby body. But I believe, Valerie, that our souls are ancient
That
and that
is
we bring with us all of that energy from generations past, maybe eons past, maybe lifetimes past. And perhaps there was a time when, like, the coping skills that we have now were useful. And maybe that's all that we could muster or do, but didn't make it done. Like, it didn't make it maybe even good. It just made it like that's all. Like, sometimes we just die, like, and in states of terror and horror and fear and prejudice and whatever. Like, we
yeah.
die like that. And so then we come back, and then what do you got to do? You got to To me, you've got to transform that energy. You got to resolve it or dissolve it. And so the idea is that if you can believe that at the very core of us we are energy, and we know the very first law of thermodynamics is the conservation of energy, and that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can't be forgotten, can't be numbed, it can't be ignored. It
Transfers.
has to be transformed. That's right. It can only change. So we can
Right.
only go from, let's say, sadness into acceptance or something, whatever we want to call those feelings.
Wild transient.
But it's got to be transformed. And this belief that I've had, or what I've come to understand through my spiritual awakening, was also borne out by Dr. David Hawkins, a physician just like us, who wrote the book, The Map of Consciousness. And he measured all these the frequencies that are in us, just using like muscle kind of contractions and vibrations, almost like the train of four when you're waking somebody up from an anesthetic. And so he
Okay.
measured all these frequencies. And then these we can name them. So, like, let's say I feel like joy, or happiness, and you measure what that is. And you say, "Oh,
Gosh.
that's happiness." What if I'm sad or depressive? You measure that. What if I feel ashamed of myself? Measure that. That's what we call shame. Okay.
Mm.
I'm in love. You measure me. That's what the love frequency. Okay.
Wow.
And so all of this has been measured and documented. This map of consciousness. And so it is measured on a logarithmic scale, from 20 being the lowest resonant frequency in humanity to 1,000, which is like the highest, or these fleeting feelings of enlightenment. So we can be anywhere between 20 and, right? That's a big range. This is a logarithmic scale of like vibrational frequencies that we can experience, not just in a lifetime, but in a single day. Like, we're all over the place. We can be all over the place.
Yeah. I
So
feel
that's so, Valerie, guess where I was living for most of my life? I was living at the lowest resonant frequency measured in humanity.
oh my
I was resonating
gosh.
full of shame, and I had a lot of shame around money, financial shame. And so that is like the nut that I couldn't crack, because no matter how much money I made, or how many titles or degrees, I always felt that there was never enough, and I never felt like I was enough. I never felt good enough. Like, I always felt like I had to fight, fight, fight just to get the same recognition or the same value as somebody else. Because at the very, very, like, at a very elementary, at a very core level, and I believe this was again generationally, I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel like a worthy person. And so what happens when you resonate shame, or when you resonate love, or when you resonate curiosity? More of those things come into your sphere. I believe this is how the universe works. Like, we resonate our frequency out to what I call this universal substrate of creation. That we're always putting out signals. And then we're always, if you notice, getting back exactly what we feel. Because I believe that's what the universe does. It's like, okay, you say you're afraid. I'm going to show you more things to validate your fear. So you say, every reason.
Gosh, it's
No,
messed up.
Yeah, so this is what I think we don't understand, like, what we're doing. Like, I think
Yeah.
we're literally unconscious, like, not understanding, like, that we are powerful and that we are
Yes.
beings of energy and that we are resonating out these forces all the time, and then we're surprised or angry or frustrated on what comes back. It's
Yes.
like, well, if I resonate out there lack, then there are more and more evidence of things lacking around me. If you've ever
Oh,
noticed, if you ever resonate like, "I got this," you're like confidence, more and more things to show your confidence, like to
yes.
validate your confidence will come back to you. More things will come to you.
Belief of
People will ask you
abundance.
questions. Yeah, it comes
Yes.
back. If
Yes.
I resonate fear, more things, more frightening
It
things
will
will show
come
up
true.
in my
Yes.
reality. Exactly. And
Yes.
so this goes back to this existentialist thought, this belief that we create our own lives. We just are unconscious of what we're creating.
Which is the hardest part. You know, it's almost like a
Exactly.
almost it sounds easy, but it's like the hardest part.
God. Hey, figuring out this energy thing was it has been harder than being a heart surgeon, or whatever you could be up to in life. I swear to you, I swear to you,
I believe it.
I
No, I
can
believe
do
it.
yeah, I can do that over and over again, but you
I
ask me to, like, figure out this pattern and this energy, I'm just like, "What the fuck?"
and you
Yeah.
ask yourself, it's not like you know what I mean? Like, a highly accomplished person like you, for me to hear you say that is wild because you've done so much, yet you still didn't change how that feeling of trying to, like, make it and be enough, and I struggle with that exact same thing. It will never be enough. I don't care if I built a whole city and it's sparkly, shiny, it solves all the world's problems. I'll still be like, well, I know myself. I know myself. So,
There'll be something that it isn't, yeah.
yeah. So, man, this definitely at whatever you're resonating with me, it hits target. That hits target.
Yes, and I feel like now that I understand it, well, at the level that I can understand the universe, right, and how we are a part of it, or how the universe is a part of us, and how we're interacting with this invisible force. From the way that I can, like, in my corporal brain understand it, I believe that this is part of the reason that we are here, and it's not designed to be easy,
No.
because when we are challenged like this, even with kind of esoteric understandings like the universe itself,
Mhm.
we have to grow a little bit. And I think that that's what the game that we're up to. Like, it's not, yes, we physically grow in our bodies and age and get older and mature and all that. But then I believe there's a spiritual growth that we must also embark upon. Now,
Mhm.
we don't all do it in one lifetime. I don't believe any of us do. I think probably we've all been here dozens and dozens of times trying to get ourselves figured out.
Wow.
Um, but then I believe that there can be a lifetime when you do crack the nut, and I believe
I
that's the
hope it's
time
this
you
one.
get to ascend. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I do believe that we're energy. Nothing else makes sense. And like you said, when you put a thought here, that makes you move and speak and you're really radiating this energy to other people and your body and your molecules are interacting with your environment. So that being said, we
That's
do
right.
have control over our thoughts. So even whenever something negative comes in, switching that is powerful.
Now you froze a little bit. I don't know if I
Well, the
am
bottom
too.
line of what I basically was just thinking, like, we have control of this. So the good news in all of this is that if A is true, then B is also true that we can really do so much. And it starts with a thought.
So, I love that. I love that because I believe that thoughts are things just like our feelings are. Like I know, especially like in a very masculine patriarchal society, we try to pretend like our feelings don't matter
You
or
froze.
they don't bother us, but they do. They do. And
Yeah.
it's just that we're, I, I would say, particularly the males, that they are conditioned not to show this. And I think that's very damaging because we can't help it. We are emotional beings. We are energy. And it's
Mhm.
coursing through all of us all of the time. So what I've really learned how to do, so I didn't talk to you about the awakening part. What what happened was I started having literally out of body experiences, like leaving my body, feeling my energy leave out of myself and be fully conscious, like fully aware that I had left my body and that my body was somewhere and I was felt like I was in what we call space or some other dimensional place.
Is
And
this
so I
while
had full
sleeping
awareness of
or,
that.
like, random times throughout the day?
S- It's always when I am sleeping, and I believe that there's a window. There's a small window between our wakefulness to this reality and our dream state. And that's when we can, I would say, leave out and have very conscious experiences where it's not confusing. It's as I am speaking to you now. It feels that real. There's no confusion. In fact, you come back as sober as you've ever been, and you're like, hold on a second. There's more to this life. There's more to this dream than what I'm experiencing.
Did you find yourself looking down on yourself, having thoughts that would counter your natural thoughts during your awake time? Or that
Yes. Yes. I think that goes without saying. So to me, I'm gonna put it this way, Valerie, like I having those out of body experiences I considered a gift because it helped me to see that I was more than that my circumstances, that I was infinitely more, that we are all infinitely more. And that truly like we're energy beings having a human experience. And so we've probably heard many people that have had near death experiences. When they come back, they perceive life differently. They perceive
Yeah.
themselves differently. It was the same thing. I began seeing everything differently. Obviously, it started with myself. Um, I, I lost those whole thoughts that I wasn't worthy anymore. I was like, "Are you
Wow.
kidding me? I'm a completely like all of us. Like we
You
are
just shed it
beings
like
that
it
have
was.
shed all that crap, all the
Wow.
some people, call it kind of your mental garbage.
Yeah.
All the stuff that the lies that you tell yourself, the insidious lies that you're not good enough in some way, like all that began to dissolve. I did kind of begin to get to the root of what was ailing my soul, and I believe, again, only with awareness could I begin to change it. And so I began to change it. I was very avoidant of my life, like, my early life. I would never wanna go back to where I was born. I never wanted to talk about it. Had a lot of shame, in my family. I call it an unspeakableness in my family around women and money because there was prostitution in my family. My mother's mom was a prostitute that had a brothel. And my mother she had just the most difficult life escaping that. And then when I was born, I was forbidden to have a relationship with my grandmother, but nobody told me why. I just was not allowed to have a relationship with her. And as I got older, I began to understand the unspeakableness. And it's because in my family, I mean, it might not be true for all families, but in my family, having someone in the oldest profession was shameful. And so there was a lot of shame, money and women and sexuality, and I embodied all of that. Even though I didn't even I couldn't even have a relationship with it, spiritually, I embodied all of it because it was part that's part of me. If I can inherit a physical thing from my grandmother or my
Yeah.
mother, could I not inherit that? You know,
We
that
have
energy?
mannerisms like our parents.
Mhm.
My
That's
mom and I
right.
stand the same, like, with like,
Yeah,
probably not this posture, but like this, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I try, I fight it, but we stand the same, we have the same gestures."
exactly. And how intangible is that? Like, just like the same manners of being or the same gait or the same voice or the same comic timing or what all those things that are like, they're not taught, or kids that come and they're 3 years old playing The Flight of the Butterflies on the violin. You're like, "Whoa." Like, their little fingers can't even move that fast. I'm like, and they're great. So, they weren't taught. They came in with that,
Yeah.
you know? And so I'm like, "Okay," or kids that can play the piano or people that are mathematical savants or whatever. They didn't learn that, not in this lifetime anyway. But I think they're probably coming back to complete something, and that I call it a
Oh,
carryover. So we
wow.
all have carryovers.
Oh my
I
gosh,
noticed
it gives me chills.
yeah, I started moving energy, so I got my healing attunements to move energy, to do Reiki healing, in 2013, 2015 timeframe. I did a couple years of training with a Reiki master, and I've been doing energy healings ever since then, and one of the things that I learned in my practice of energy healing was, that again, I believe that if you had good parents, you had enough, you had friends, you had resources, that you had no problems.
Yeah,
Only to learn that my like, my primary clients were kind of moms like me. It's a kind of like the soccer mom kind of avatar. So the moms would come, I do the energy healing, and then they would start to bring me their children. I'm talking like kindergarten, first graders into the healing practice, and I kinda got an aha. I said, "Wait a second. These kids have 2 parents who love them, they're at private school, they got friends, they're well fed, they're taken care of, they're loved, and and they have issues in their energy field." And I was like,
it is
"Oh,
shocking.
now I get it, now I get it." We all Yeah, you think it's some infraction in the physical world that creates that, but it isn't, not always. And so, especially
Wow.
when you have babies and young kids, that there's no other evidence of, depravity or abuse or anything like that, and they're
Yeah.
still, like, have a soulful kind of experience, like, pain or experience. And so I've seen it, in animals. I've done energy healing with animals courses and dogs primarily. Same thing, they can be traumatized too. And so, like, we all have this energetic part of us.
Yes.
I think all living things, and then it's a matter of being in tune with it, being able to recognize it, and for me, having the ability to what I call transform it. So I know how to transform energy. So I can do it in other people, and then I've been able to do it in myself. And so I think it's just, a part of our lives that we're never taught. It's like we almost have to have a midlife crisis or some sort of traumatic experience to
I'm
start
done with
in
those.
this journey. Yeah, because it's hyper focused on the physical experience and getting a job to pay your bills. But yeah, I had lots of money trauma. And that's what I did a lot of work in my spiritual work. For 10 years, I did a show for 3 years called The Money Consciousness Show. I did a podcast for 5 years called The Be Conscious Podcast. I did a TED Talk on money consciousness, overcoming poverty. I've done many speaking engagements, wrote 6 books, and all that stuff. There's always a thread that for many of my clients, no matter what they came to me for or what was going on, a lot of them asked for me to do a healing around money. So I've done meditations on it. I've created meditations about it. And then that's what I do in my work now. I come back to the world of finance from this very deeply spiritual place, understanding that many people have wounds regarding their self worth, value, shame around how money is earned and spent. There's fears surrounding money. a lot of feelings of lack and scarcity. And you think that you can shake it with a big paycheck or some sort of big contract, but you can't. You see lottery winners, athletes, they got these meteoric rises to wealth only to come back down again into bankruptcy and poverty. And it happens over and over. And I think what we do as a society is we want to shame people for that.
Mhm.
And I say, nope, there's no, to me, there's no place for shame. There's no shame, no judgment. This is something deeper. And
Mhm.
then once it can be recognized, I believe it can be healed, if you're open to that, but it can be transformed. That energy can be transformed. And so I know that we're coming at time, but I would like to share an exercise, with
Yes, please.
audience.
Any tips? I am ready.
Okay, so this is what I believe happens. I believe that we find ourselves in repeating patterns in life. You'll notice it in relationships, we'll notice it in jobs, we'll notice it around money, maybe with our health, our bodies. But we notice there's like a underlying theme. And people will say, oh, people even recognize you for the theme or the pattern. Um, and so there's a point when I believe each of us has to ask ourselves, what is this? Because what I think happens in the beginning is you're kind of new to the pattern, at least you're new to the awareness. And so you think it's outside of you. It's the economy. It's my family. It's because I'm not tall enough. It's because I'm not smart enough. Like it's always outside of you, some other force. And so then you don't have to take responsibility for it.
Mhm.
So then we get to a point where some of those things are solved. You're not a kid anymore. You have a job, or you have education, or you have this, or you have these resources, and you still see the matter. That's when I believe some of us say, what the fuck? Like,
That's the
what's
moment.
this happening? Like, why is this happening? And I say that because it's like sometimes the patterns are so painful that they're damaging. They damage us. We can feel defeated. Okay. And so I don't, I know it kind of sounds funny, but to me, I'm dead serious about it because that's exactly the kind of the awareness that I came to. I was like, doesn't make any sense. What is this? And then I believe again, recognizing that it's a pattern and that you recognize that, wait, like you have awareness that something is up. Well, guess what? That means you also have your awareness allows you to, that means that something can be changed about it. It's
Absolutely.
not about somebody else. It's within you.
Empowering,
It's
actually.
or how do I transform the energy within me?
Mhm.
How do I do that? So if you're really playing this game, there's a process of energy transformation that I want to take you through.
Okay.
So okay, let's say you're in the pattern. Let's call it the boom and bust cycle. Got money, then you don't have money. You got money and you don't have money. And it doesn't matter the job, your education, how good you are, how talented, how smart, nothing. It's still doing this, right?
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, WTF, here we go. What is this? What is this about? Okay. I should have everything that I need. I shouldn't be going through this every month, every 2 years, every whatever cycle,
Yeah.
whatever the amplitude of that cycle is. And so there's a point where when we recognize it, we can begin asking higher questions of it. Like, what is it showing me? Like, what is it about me, about this existence, about me in this time and space that needs
Mhm.
to be transformed? Like, what game am I playing? And so then we can go about the transformation of it. So normally when we're experiencing a pattern that's painful, we have a feeling in our body. It doesn't
Yes.
feel right. Yes.
Right.
I mean, I would have literally like gut like when I would have like these financial downs, I literally would have a pain in my gut. Like, I would lose my appetite, I would feel
Yeah.
sick to my stomach. Sometimes I feel like I have a punch in the gut.
Yeah.
And
I feel like that's mine,
it's
or like
hurting,
chest.
right? Yeah, I used to think I was growing an ulcer. I was like, "Oh god." I said because I would have so much pain in my gut. And so then I started to say, "Okay, let me how can I transform this?" I knew enough from my energy practice that I could do it with other people, so I began doing it with me. So normally I, like, place my hands on other people, kinda go into this meditative state. I started placing it on me and going into that meditative state. Yeah, I was like, "Wait a second. I can literally feel this energy emanating from me like chi." And so, again, it was always, like, outward for other people, and I was like, "Wait a second. I gotta turn this in on myself because
Yeah.
I'm just by the fact that I am living tells me I'm in a pattern. Like, there's something
Yes.
I can transform. There's something I'm here to do, and it's not just to get more titles and degrees and money." And so I
Unfortunately.
yeah. If again, if that's all it took, many of us could do that. Like, we could learn skills, and we could figure out how to do that part, but there's whatever's ailing the soul, there's no amount of money, things, titles, degrees that will heal what ails the soul. No amount of stuff. And so I began to learn how to, like, recognize that I could also heal myself. And so that and thus, I believe everybody can. Like, we all have
That's
that
the good
we all
news.
have this capacity. Yeah.
Yes.
But it's not it's like,
Go
how to
help
do
if I
it.
can. So
Yeah.
that's helpful to even hear.
So here's, like, 3 steps.
Okay.
Pattern, I don't feel good in my body, so I like to just instead of calling it pain or illness or whatever, I just say I have a sensation. I try to make it as kind of nondescript as possible because,
Mhm.
of course, every word has meaning for us, and then that creates another pattern and cycle.
Yep.
So, okay, I feel this sensation in my gut. Doesn't feel good. Okay, but I have this sensation. And so I would literally begin, put my hand on this place that's not feeling great. I got the pressure, I got the heat, cold sensation, whatever, feeling of doom. I have the feeling of doom.
Yeah.
So I have this like feeling in my gut. And then I would literally start breathing through it. So I would almost imagine that I was taking a breath in and it was coming out through the area that was not feeling well. So in my by my mouth, and I just imagine like this breath coming out of my gut. Just use my mind to like imagine that there's almost like a cleansing of that
Brain through the organ and then out of the body.
out. Yeah. And I would notice that as I was doing that, I would kind of to narrow my thoughts, I'd say 1, 2, or in, out, just so I wouldn't thinking about everything else, all my grievances and pains and issues and all my the rhetoric, the dialogue that would go through
Right.
my head
Ruminations.
experiencing this financial thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just say in, out, 1, 2, until I notice that sick feeling begin to dissipate.
Wow.
So it would start to like it would be less intense and less intense and less intense. And I have to really like focus on this at first because I was just new at it. And so I was very serious. I was like, I've got to figure this thing out because it's harming. It's harming. And so in out that I noticed that. And so then I had so much to transform. I had so many grievances, so many issues that I got good at it because I would do it with everything. Like it could be the in-laws or whatever was bugging you. It's like, okay, why is this irritating? And I do it. I do it again. Like, why does this person bother me so much?
Yes.
And so I I recognize, I was like, "Wait a second, they can't." It's almost this idea that someone's pushing your buttons,
Mhm.
but if you notice, no one can push a button that's not already within you, right? So, like, you can't push something that's not there. So
Yeah.
so whatever that grievance, it's within me. They're just
Oh,
like a
man.
mirror showing me that this grievance is there, right?
Oh
So
my
it's like
gosh.
all your relationships, I believe, are mirrors to what needs to be transformed within you because they're going to push those buttons. It's like they're almost there to do that, to say, yeah, we know this is going to get you here. And then it's up to you to say, okay, it's not you. This is with me. There's something in me. Okay. And then if it's not serving me, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it go. Okay. So I started doing that with everything, everybody, everything until I called myself getting spiritually clean, until I could be clean. It's not that life that doesn't happen and I don't get upset and things don't bother me, but now I know what to do. I'm like, okay, let me go into this. I do breathing and I do deep meditations. I go walk into nature. You figure out what your things are that can help you to transform the energy. I've worked with other energy healers. Sometimes like I had a fear that I couldn't, like I would notice it would come back no matter how much work I did. And so I worked with other healers. I was like, I still have this thing. I know what it is. How can I be free? You know? And so I sought help, because I recognize that this is just a frequency, energy, a vibration that's within me and is no longer serving me. And so then I learned how to, transform energy within myself and feel well again. So yeah, change your entire perspective on life. It makes I figure, if you gotta live this life, you may as well live the best life.
Yes,
If you
please.
get fear, yeah, anxiety, pain, shame and all that. If you guilt, if you can live without that, I mean, you won the battle, you know?
Like,
Not
just
that thing, the world's gonna keep turning, but what changes is you. Yeah.
yes.
You have to change. And then everything else is just like it begins to kind of be water off your back. You're like, okay. You see things. And then even just the other day at work, I noticed something. I was like, why did somebody did something and it really bugged me. And I was like, what is that? And it came back down to this old energy where I didn't feel like I was valued.
Wow.
So then I had to like say, okay, Susan, what's this about?
Yep.
You know that this isn't true.
Yep.
Why is it why did this little thing bug the shit out?
Yeah.
And so and that's like, is it worth it? Like all the mind garbage, all the internal chatter, all the feelings, was it worth it? And ultimately said, no, it wasn't. But there's something I do that with every person, like everything that bothers me and triggers me. I'm like, oh, they can't push a button that's not ready within me. So there was something like there's an act that happened that triggered an old energy. Yeah.
Well, it definitely you're at the expert level, so I'm going to try this and take those moments as I experience the trigger, or somebody just bugging me or that inadequate feeling, which I exist with most of the time. So, yeah, I think I'll check in with you because I'm at the rookie level. But but you're a great resource to guide on that, and so you'll be hearing from me for sure. It looks like
Absolutely.
Justin wants us to wrap up. Is there any last words before we wrap up for today? It was such a pleasure. I learned a lot. Feels
Well,
emotional too. Like it is. I don't know, something about it, and it's not my norm. So I hear you loud and clear.
well, absolutely. I'm sure you'll have in the show notes ways to contact me, but you can always contact me through this beautiful lady, Valerie, and it has been a great pleasure being with you today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nichols. I'll talk to you soon. Have the best rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.